Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/entitled Parent Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Am I the jerk for calling my fiance entitled over a wedding planning dispute? After that, my mom ends up ruining the life of her ex-boss. And after that, entitled Karen and her kids at Infinity War. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen does not get to go to the movies. Not like you ever take me anyways. So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Am I the jerk for calling my fiance entitled over a wedding planning dispute? I just got engaged to Anna, and we are in the very early stages of wedding planning. We can afford to pay for it ourselves, but it will be a small DIY wedding. I knew that my parents were going to offer to pay because I'm the last to get married, and they paid for both of my siblings. Anna and I have talked about my parents' money before and mutually decided that when they offer to buy us a house, not trying to be an entitled jerk, but they bought both of my siblings a house, we're going to decline because it comes with strings attached. My mom drops by whenever she wants. My mom makes executive parenting decisions for my sister and sister-in-law, and Anna and I don't want that. We had dinner with my parents recently, and my dad offered us $70,000 for the wedding. I saw Anna's eyes light up. I asked what the strings would be, and my dad said we would have to let my mom help plan, invite a certain number of their friends, make sure the food included things they liked, and if he was spending that sort of money, it wasn't just for us. His wife better be happy. I told Anna it was her call. Anna got upset and said no to the conditions, which I was fine with. Anna then said my parents are selfish, which, okay, fair enough. Then she started to beg for the $70,000 without the strings. My dad said that was out of the question. She kept it up, so I changed the subject. The next morning, she told me she was going to call my mom and try to convince her to drop the conditions. I told her that she was being entitled and they have the right to give conditions. I wouldn't personally do it, but I think it's their right. I told her that if she called my mom, it would embarrass me because of the entitledness. She now thinks I'm on their side, and she's deeply hurt that I used the word entitled because she prides herself on being a hard worker. Well, what do you think? Do you agree with OP or Anna? Please let us know. Pay $70,000 for my wedding, but have no say in how things go? Yeah, that totally makes sense. My mom ends up ruining the life of her ex-boss. This happened about 30-odd years ago, and my mother recounted it recently during a family dinner. So back in the 1990s, my mom worked for this big-time company, we'll call it Company W, as an accountant. Her boss, the head of finance, was a sleazy guy. And despite being semi-wealthy, it was a big company, and married with kids, he always tried to pick up women in the office. Eventually, after a few years, my mom, being the amazing accountant that she is, noticed small irregularities in several statements. I don't know the technical terms, but mom realized that someone was embezzling the company's money for at least a couple decades. Concerned, she brought it up to the head of finance, who proceeded to demean her, call her names, botch her claim, and basically threatened to fire her if she brought it up again. My mother is not one to start crying and instead sought to prove him wrong. However, a couple of months later, head of finance brought in a new lady. Young, she was legit blonde, fresh out of college, to train under mom. My mother instantly knew what this was and started putting out feelers for a new job. In the meanwhile, she trained the younger lady, who, to quote my mom, was not the brightest bulb. Now, Company W had a policy when an employee was going to be fired. If the employee was being fired for reasons other than rule breaking, violations, etc., they would be allowed to say that they quit to be able to give their week's notice and get pay, a fair policy. So one day, mom was summoned by head of finance and told that he was firing her. She quickly counteracted and used the policy to her advantage, which angered head of finance, but he had to comply. The malicious compliance I know you're waiting for? Head of finance told my mother, in a rather rude way, that since she was going about it that way, she might as well do an exit interview. My mother literally had a light bulb moment and said to him that in that case, she would. To note, an exit interview is a formal way of leaving a job, akin to an interview for getting the job. It's a way for employees to share their experience and why they're leaving for records, including HR. You can see where this is going. So she was scheduled for the exit interview. When she went in, my mother had to, of course, bring in files relating to her work. I can't recall the exact reason other than it having to be relevant to her reason for leaving and show it to the interviewer. My mom brought in 3 large boxes of files, each one containing evidence of the embezzlement. She then presented it to the interviewer, who my mother told me was rather stunned, and proceeded to hand over all the evidence and proceed with her exit, including talking about the head of finance's reaction and how not long after, the new lady was brought in to replace her. Mom then left the company that day, got new employment, and moved on. It was a decade later that she learned what happened. My dad was a delivery driver at the time and actually made a delivery to Company W. While there, he talked with an employee, mentioned my mom had worked there and how she left, and the employee told him quite the juicy story. In the year following my mother's departure and interview, her evidence was brought to HR and the CEO, who ordered an internal investigation. Hidden cameras were placed in the accounting division. Every file made was screened and photocopied, tiny details scrutinized, and bank records triple-checked. I think you can see where this is going. Yep, the head of finance was embezzling from Company W. But it gets better. They got him, on camera, making out with a new lady inside the main office after hours. To add insult to injury, the cameras also caught him being cruel to those under him. But the biggest thing was still the embezzlement. Head of finance managed to, in over 30 years, steal over $1 million in Company W's earnings, from his days as a mere accountant and all through his promotions. Now, the exact way he was able to get that much overtime wasn't told to my dad. I doubt the employee knew, but he did know the fallout. Head of finance was summoned to the Big Cheese's office the day after the evidence was complied. And let's just say head of finance wished he had simply been fired. He was arrested for the embezzlement and for the misconduct, as well as a few other things my mom can't recall. The new lady who came in actually revealed that he had brought her in after starting to date her and even revealed to her what he was doing. Her job basically had been to help him cover it up so they could live the rich life. She didn't even know what exactly accounting was other than managing money. The perfect cover, so to speak. And if the now ex-head of finance thought being arrested and charged was bad enough, when his wife found out. The employee who told all of this to my dad wasn't present when the wife had come in while the ex-head of finance had been let out, but a friend of his had seen what had happened. She just went up, smacked the now ex-head of finance, screamed at him before saying she'll be seeing him in court for a divorce. While my dad couldn't learn what exactly happened next, what was clear was that the guy's life was ruined. And my mom, while not a vindictive person by any means, did feel somewhat joyful over the outcome. Lesson to be learned here: never mess with an accountant who actually knows what they're doing. Edit. Wow, this really blew up. I told my mom and she was in disbelief. Thanks everyone, you made her day. To clarify, the malicious compliance is that at the exit interview, my mother has to submit paperwork relating to why she left. So when the head of finance sarcastically told her she might as well go for it, she did, and presented all those files of evidence against him, stating why she left, including what he had said to her. This is not revenge, because my mother never intended it to be. She actually didn't realize how deep it went, or that he was such a scumbag. She simply did exactly as she was told. Another thing to clarify, the CEO got involved because 1, head of finance was leeching their funds for a long time, and 2, they had been friends according to mom. Yikes. Also, please note she didn't learn any of the fallout until a decade later, and from my dad, who was told by an employee from the company, and mom told me. If I did get something wrong, well, telephone effect anyone? If you found out your boss was doing shady stuff, would you report them or not? Please let us know. How shady are we talking about? Entitled Karen and Her Kids at Infinity War. Background. This happened back in 2018, so some of the details are a bit fuzzy. My brother, my dad, and I are huge Marvel fans. We've seen every movie within the opening week. Infinity War was the big movie everyone wanted to see, and getting tickets was hard. My dad scored them the day they went live, but they didn't have assigned seating, so it was first come, first serve. That day was Bring Your Kid to Work Day, and I left early to go get seats. The movie theater didn't start until 6, but they had the theater open as early as 3 p.m. We decided to get to the theater at around 3:30. There were other people there, just a group of 5 in the top row. We sat next to them and had a small conversation. We decided to eat before the movie started. At around 4, people started crowding into the theater. More seats filled in, and this woman and her kids in Marvel costumes show up. We hear her asking people to move so her kids could sit. I could barely hear it. Karen. Excuse me. Can I help you? Yes, you need to move. My kids have been waiting for this movie and want to sit at the top. I'm sorry, I've been here since 4, saving this seat. Fine. She ended up asking the same thing to everyone else in the top row. Then she came over to us. My brother and dad were in the bathroom and left their jackets to save the seats. I see her taking my dad's jacket, and I tell her that I'm saving those seats. Well, if they're not here, you can't save them. Me. They're in the bathroom, and we've been waiting here. Well, that's too bad. She sits down, and her kid starts screaming. Mommy, I want popcorn. I had popcorn as it was part of the meal I had. I was saving it for the movie. The entitled mom tries to reach over to me, grab my popcorn, and I slap her hand to get it out, and she starts screaming. She screams, "Assault!" Security tells her to calm down, and she demands free movie tickets. When she goes down to talk to the manager, my brother and my dad come back to their seats. By the time she comes back, the previews were playing. Why are you in my seats? Dad, these are our seats. We've been waiting since 3. We were here before you, in fact. Gets cut off. The guy who was here before us cut her off. Guy, he was here after us at 3:30. You can check the security camera. Entitled mom, that won't be necessary. The manager who was hearing the commotion checked the camera and saw that we were here. The lady was kicked out and was given seats for the next showing. When the movie lets out, I see her red and her kids were crying. I walk up to her and spoil the movie for her. I waved goodbye to her and I walked out of the theater. Speaking of Marvel, what's your favorite Marvel movie of all time? Please let us know. Oh, I love superhero movies. Kicked out because I listened to the school nurse instead of her. So my mom always treated me horribly. And she was very entitled. Like, I'm the mother, I am God. I'm gonna yell at my husband because he didn't give me money to get my nails done. Kind of entitled. I have numerous stories, but this is the one I remembered first, and I think it's one of the best examples of what she would do / mom God complex. This happened when I was a sophomore in high school. My voice / throat was starting to get rough, and I went to the nurse's office for some advice, and she said to gargle warm salt water 5 to 10 times, at least 3 times a day. The temperature is important. I've heard this from my friends too, so I figured it must work. It did. So when I got home, I say hi to my mom, who was in her room, and went to the kitchen to fill a glass of water. I debated whether I should just get some out of the sink, since it's fast, warm water, and I'm not drinking it anyway, so I asked my mom if it was a good idea. I remember the general outline vividly, but not the details, as this happened a long time ago. Me. Hey, should I just use the water from the tap or from the fridge? Entitled mom. Ew, no. Use the fridge. Why do you ask? Oh, well, my throat is scratchy and my voice is going, so everybody recommends gargling warm salt water to help. What? No, you gargle cold water. I was told warm water. Sweetie, I've been taking care of your sore throat since you were born, and I think I know better. Me. Well, yes, but can I at least try the warm at least? It wouldn't hurt. No, use cold water. Cold water is better. I know better. Me. Okay, but everyone's suggesting warm, so I want to try that at least. Please? She visibly starts getting upset and walks towards me, a little voice rising. I can clearly see at that point that she was drunk, so I started getting scared. OP, I am your mother, and I know what's best for my child. You're seriously gonna believe your friends over your own mother? Me. Well, the nurse said it too. But okay, fine, I'll use cold. No, I can't believe you'd believe other people over me when I was the one who raised you. I was the one changing your diapers. She starts going off on one of her tirades where she just rants and rages into the air, regardless if you're saying anything or not. Her voice was getting louder and louder till she was practically screaming. I'm trying to tell her I'll take it cold, but she's long past the point of rational thought and doesn't even register what I'm saying. I tell her I'm done talking and try to walk away, but she then proceeds to grab my hair and shove me through the door, screaming, "How dare you treat me like this and disrespect me?" She then slams the door. It's 5:30 p.m., 93 degrees in August in Florida, and I get stuck out there with nowhere to go for at least 3 hours. Can't call dad or friends because my phone was in my backpack in the house, and we live in a rural community, so not anyone close by. When those 3 hours were up, she thrusts open the door, rants about how crazy I was for sitting there, and then complains and wonders why I'm giving her the silent treatment like what transpired didn't happen. I have many more stories if anyone's interested, but that was the first one I remembered. Am I the jerk? I locked my entire alley up. Last year, I bought a house in my area. Really wonderful old red brick. When I was in the process of buying it, I discovered that the purchase also includes the entirety of the alley. I asked the realtor if this was true, and they said yes. I went to the courthouse to double check and confirmed it. So I buy the house. I meet some of the neighbors, and I made a joke about charging them rent to use my alley. They flipped out. I was not looking at starting a war, so I just kind of let it blow over. Then winter arrived, and the neighbors started demanding I have the alley plowed every time it snowed, because I own the alley and I'm responsible for it. One of them told me they would sue me if they slipped and fell in the alley. I don't believe they were joking. I paid a friend $25 a month to plow the alley every time it snowed just to keep them happy. But during this time, I was also talking with some people at the courthouse. As soon as the snow started to melt in my area, I got a hold of some local contractors and had them build a gate at the entrance of the alley that I keep locked. I've also posted trespass warning signs at the gate. It's all completely legal. I made sure of it before I did this. Now, the neighbors are just livid. Basically, everyone is calling me a jerk, including my family. One final note, I'm only here to settle a debate with my sister. Regardless if I'm the jerk or not, the alley isn't going to be opened up again. You don't threaten me with a good time. Edit. Alright, that's enough. I spent the last 10 hours responding to comments. I'd like to thank everyone who privately messaged me so they don't get in trouble with the mods. I love reading all of your nasty messages. For anyone who doesn't know any better, the alley has 2 garages that open to it. I would have figured most of you would realize an alley may have a garage. I guess not. I didn't intentionally leave that fact out, but after everyone started howling about it, I decided to wait until I was done here to edit the main post. I'll update if I ever get sued into oblivion. Lots of love. Well, what do you think? Do you agree with OP or with his neighbors? Please let us know. Where on earth do you live to have such entitled neighbors? Can't pay for gasoline? Pay $1,000 for repairs instead. This happened in the 90s, right after I had moved out of my dad's house after college. I was broke and in search of a job. My brother, who owns a local mechanic shop, helped me find a job and a place to live in the area. The place I lived was in a cramped trailer park, but I did have a small patch of grass that needed mowing. Also, the place had poor heating and cooling. I had to install my own window unit and use a kerosene heater for heat. Not a good idea, by the way, but it's what was available, and it was indoor rated surprisingly. My neighbors, who we'll call Josh and Anna again, are the type that have a nice expensive car despite not being able to afford power, food, etc. But who am I to judge? The car? A Ford Thunderbird Super Coupe. Round 1. It's getting springtime and my weeds are starting to grow, so I get a small power mower, a gas jug, and some gas. I mow my yard in about 5 minutes. Done. Next week I come out and my gas jug is empty. Well, crap. Round 2. It's week 2 of mowing season and I go get some gas. This time I get less, and before I put the jug up, I place a small handwritten note on it. Attention gas thief, contains water. No, it didn't really, but I was testing a theory. And yup, they stole the gas anyway. At this point, I still wasn't sure if it was actually them or not, but I was about to find out. Round 3. Mortality. It's now 4 weeks into mowing season. At this point, it's warmed up. My new shiny 220-volt AC unit is humming in the living room, and I no longer need my kerosene. I take my gas jug and kerosene jug, get some gas/Karo, mow my yard, put my gas jug just inside my door, and leave my very full, bright blue kerosene jug next to my mower. He took it. The fallout. Anyone who works on cars knows that a gasoline-powered engine will not run on kerosene. So yeah, he didn't make it much farther than the top of the hill. The best part is that the warranty didn't cover the damage done by using the wrong fuel, and to fix it, the tank had to be drained, the lines had to be drained, the filter changed, and new fuel injectors installed. Josh ended up paying my brother over $1,000 to fix the car. I think my favorite part was walking by Josh later with my empty kerosene jug, mumbling about why would someone steal my kerosene in warm weather. He never admitted he did it. He never stole my gas or kerosene again. Finally, he learned, or found a new victim. Entitled woman got fired from a pharmacy as a patient. We've got me. I just want my allergy pills. We've got entitled woman, second in line, mid-50s. We've got old lady waiting at the window, obvious Parkinson's patient. We've got RX, the pharmacist. Me, walking up to the pickup window to get my meds after work. Entitled woman, making impatient noises, talking to me. You should probably come back later. I've been waiting for hours. Me, no problem, I'm not in a hurry. Old lady on the verge of tears talking to pharmacist. I've been without my meds for a few days. There was an issue with my insurance. Please help me. RX. I talked to your doctor. We've got it taken care of. We can't get your regular medication. This one's cheaper, but we aren't going to charge you for it. It should help. Old lady, now crying, visibly shaking. Thank you so much. Old lady and RX talking about the new meds. Karen. Oh my God. People are waiting. This is ridiculous. More impatient noises. RX to old lady. Here's your meds. Let me know if anything doesn't seem right or if there are any side effects. Karen. What the heck? Come on, this is ridiculous. Maybe you shouldn't get sick if you can't afford it. Me. What? Karen. She's holding up the line. This is ridiculous. I shouldn't have to wait at the walk-up window. Old lady takes the bag with the meds, turns, loses her balance, and grabs the sign that says, keep 6 foot distance to balance herself. Oh, starts crying again. Karen. You shouldn't be in public if you have to touch everything. I take old lady by the arm and help her to her car. I'm vaccinated, not worried about it. Old lady. Thank you so much. It's been a hard few days. Me. No worries. I hope it gets better. Karen. About time. Oh my God. Steps up to the window. RX. I'm sorry, your prescription isn't ready. I didn't even give you my name. What the heck is wrong with you? I have things to do. Just give me my pills. RX. No, I'm sorry you don't have any prescription here. You probably should call your doctor and get your prescription sent to another pharmacy. I've always had my prescription here. What are you talking about? You are no longer a patient here. Please leave. If you come back to the store, you will be arrested. How dare you? You can't do that, you dumb jerk. I'll have your license. And a ton of other complaints as she heads to her car. I step up to the window. What was her problem? RX. I don't know. She was only standing there for like 10 to 15 minutes. Send it exactly like this. As part of my job working in complaints, I write letters to customers. We don't use templates, and each letter is tailored to the individual. Sometimes customers raise multiple complaint points, and each point is carefully addressed in the letter we send. We outline everything the customer is unhappy with, our full investigation, and what we're going to do to put this right. Or alternatively, explaining carefully why their complaint is not justified. A new manager, Steve, was hired a few months ago, and he decided that we were wasting too much time writing letters, and he was going to come up with a template for us to use, as we were obviously too simple to understand how letters are meant to work. So he goes off and drafts a template and proudly shares it with us all. It was crappy, to put it bluntly. It was full of typos and grammatical errors, but it also did not contain details of what the complaint was about or how we had resolved it. Of course, this was pointed out to him in full why this was not appropriate and why it would lead to more complaints, and it's basically terrible customer service. He lost his temper, screamed and yelled until 3 separate people cried and 2 logged out of the virtual meeting. Afterwards, he sent an email saying he wants his letter used exactly as he has attached it. Who am I to argue? I send the letters exactly as he had written them. Copy and pasted to ensure nothing was changed exactly as he asked. Right down to his signature and contact details at the bottom of the letter. I told the rest of the team, and they are all sending letters with Steve's details too. Within the first week, he had 40 customers call him and email complaining about the letter he had sent. The week after, 50 irate customers. Steve hasn't looked into the complaints, so he doesn't know how to address any of the customers or understand their issues. So I get phone calls day in and day out. This man is livid. What was his complaint about? Each time I reply, oh, it should all be explained in the letter I sent. You know, the one detailing all complaint points, my investigation and resolution in full. I would just check that. Bye. The whole department is now under investigation as customer satisfaction has tanked. Best bit is each and every dissatisfaction is scored against Steve. Every other member of staff has 100% satisfaction as nothing is logged against us. Our name isn't on the letter. Steve is on 0%. It's a terrible shame. Edit. Goodness me, this blew up. Thank you. Hopefully Steve will get fired soon. We work in complaints and we're pretty thick-skinned. To make 3 staff actually cry takes some serious work. He's vile. I will provide an update if management ever gets their act together enough to listen to our concerns. I do feel bad for the customers involved though. The customers that are complaining about the letter don't know that their complaint is upheld and that I've sent them compensation or flowers. They would normally get a letter apologizing deeply, explaining what went wrong and how we will resolve it going forward. Those customers are normally absolute dreams. The only time they come back to us is to thank us. I've never in all my days sent someone a check and a nice letter and had them phoning to yell at me. Poor deluded Steve. Am I the jerk for refusing to provide more than my obligation threshold to my parents? I'm 36, male, and my father brought us to the US from an Asian country when I was 12. I have 4 younger siblings. In our culture, the children are the parents' retirement accounts, so parents tend to invest in their kids and then reap the rewards when they become successful adults and help the parents retire. My father and a couple of his friends came to the US around the same time in the late 80s. His friends have sons around my and my brother's age. They all got the same jobs, but my father consistently earned more money than the other two. His 2 friends invested in their kids' educations and provided a comfortable lifestyle for their wives and kids back in the old country. My father was more interested in buying land and trying new business ventures, so we lived relatively simple lives. That trend continued until when we came to the US. We lived in relative poverty in the US while my father sent more and more money back home to buy properties. He said he was building his retirement and he was going to move back to the old country and retire there when he was old. At the same time, his friends were working less and spending more time with their kids and investing heavily in their kids' future instead of building properties in the home country. We were in constant contact growing up, and those kids had much better lives than us, going to private schools and getting allowances. My siblings and I would be lucky to get $50 for new notebooks and pencils at the beginning of the school year, let alone an allowance or access to private schools. My parents never went to parent-teacher conferences or ever checked our report cards. Despite all of that, my brother and I are now decently successful in our careers. The sons of his friends are just as successful. Since their fathers sacrificed so much for those guys' futures, they're financing relatively comfortable and lavish retirements for their fathers. My brother and I refuse to do the same, which means that my father can no longer keep up with his friends in terms of quality of life. My father's schemes and businesses and properties in the old country haven't amounted to anything much in terms of income, so my parents are now reliant on my brother and I for support. We only provide enough for them to cover bills and food. We refuse to buy them houses and cars in the old country and here and finance multiple trips back and forth. My brother and I can afford it, but we refuse to provide more than our obligation. Our parents never did anything more than their obligations to house and feed the kids, so we're choosing to limit our support to just that. My father has taken to telling family that his sons have effectively abandoned him, despite our ongoing support, so we've started to be honest when asked and say that he never provided anything more than the bare minimum, so we're choosing to do the same. His investments are in the old country. He can go back and get it from there. Are we the jerks? Well, who do you agree with? OP or his father? Please let us know.
Get what you get and don't throw a fit, Gramps.
Am I the jerk for not letting it go and still expecting an apology from my mother-in-law? Significant other and I have a 10-month-old. Baby got sick at 2 months old, so we told everyone that we would be limiting contact and not allowing others to hold him for the time being. My mother-in-law lost her crap, claimed I was keeping her grandson from her. I never let her hold him. She had held him several times in his 2 months, and we had photo proof, and basically cried a whole river to my significant other over it and made me seem like a monster who was out to get her. It caused a huge fight between me and significant other until he realized she was exaggerating and straight up lying. He contacted her and told her that me and him are a team. We won't budge on this. No one is to hold him until we deem it safe. And he called her out on her lies and told her she owes us an apology for the way she acted. Her response? Have a nice life. She didn't speak to us for 4 months straight. I reached out a few times about going by to get my significant other's mail, obviously bringing baby with me. And she'd either not respond or just say, on the mailbox, and leave it at that. I wouldn't have had any issue letting her come to my car to see the baby, but she never asked, and I admittedly didn't push it because I was mad. She also turned his entire family against us. Not a single member of his family bothered to get our side of the story and just stopped speaking to us. No one reached out to ask how the baby was for 4 months. Suddenly, she sends a text that says, "This is stupid. We need to move past it," because she misses her son and her grandson, leaving me out of it, of course. Significant other told me that he wants to move past it too, but we want an apology for how she reacted to us setting a simple boundary, and it needs to be addressed to me as well. She said that in no way will she apologize because she did nothing wrong and has nothing to apologize for. Significant other told her in that case, we can't move past it. She responded by threatening to sue us for grandparent rights for a kid she has not tried to contact in 4 months and doesn't know her at all. Sister-in-law and an aunt-in-law both contacted us saying nasty things about how we are just using the baby as a pawn to make mother-in-law miserable. My significant other and I both agreed we wanted to go full no contact with his family. But we let them know we left a line of communication open via text if they decide to move forward with the GPR issue. It's been 4 months since that, and mother-in-law occasionally sends holiday cards to baby and significant other, and purposely leaves me out of them. But otherwise, none of them have tried to contact us. My entire issue was that even if mother-in-law was mad at us because she couldn't hold him, she still could have been FaceTiming or doing socially distanced visits with us to see the baby. Same goes for the rest of the family. She recently contacted my mom asking how to fix it. My mom told me and significant other that we need to just get over it and forgive her, despite her lack of an apology. I'm of the belief that she's a grown woman and she should know how to A, respect boundaries, and B, apologize when someone tells her she's done something wrong. My significant other agrees. Am I the jerk for still wanting an apology? Well, who do you agree with? OP or mother-in-law? Please let us know.
I'd just go no contact with them fully. What you're dealing with right now is just a sample of her true colors and what you'll be dealing with for many years to come.
Why stop now? Come watch this video next. You will love it.
And support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a special shout out in our next video. And to have us make any kind of video you want us to, head over to our Fiverr, link pinned in the comments below.